कौन जा रहा है? सब लोग you should try. You know, not interested.
An option you could.
Yes, you should try. अच्छा, what happened? हाँ? कौन सा we have we haven't started that.
No, we haven't.
The last class we finished with heredity.
The control coordination will have to start.
Let us start with the next chapter, that is control coordination. What is coordination? What is coordination? Tell me. What is the meaning of coordination? Hello? हाँ? तो उसको मान क्यों रही है? हाँ? टॉर्चर कर रही है ना? School exams अभी? Next? One exam over. Did you tell me the marks? Science के marks? हाँ? Science में overall कितना मिला? One exam over, no school? No. Okay.
All got over, but marks is not. Our first exam of school is in 4.
अच्छा, एक भी एग्जाम अभी तक हुआ नहीं है. हाँ, एपीजे कौन है? एपीजे हो गया एग्जाम, मार्क्स नहीं मिला अभी तक. और ओवरऑल साइंस में कितना मिला? 20 का था कि 20 का था? 6 6 12 6.5 होता है ना? नहीं? 7 मार्क for physics.
7 marks for bio. I got 6.
अच्छा. Okay, so let us start with the concept of control coordination. What are we studying in this chapter? We'll be studying about the concept of coordination. What is the meaning of coordination? Coordination means, if I go by the simple English meaning, I should say coordination means work together, no? Work together. But here, the concept of Control coordination that we understand is work together, how the body parts work together actually. How our body parts work together. Now, in the reference of understanding coordination, you have to come across that which system, which group of cells generally help us in coordination. Which system, which group of cells help us in coordination? So the first thing that we have to understand is the concept of nervous system. Basically, in this chapter, we are going to understand. And the moment I talk about nervous system, one word that has to be understood, that is nerves. So, what is the most important component of the nervous system? That is nerves. What are nerves? Nerves are bundles of nerve cells. What are nerves? What is the definition of the word nerves? Nerves are bundles of nerve cells. Then, what is the other word for this? Nerve cells. What are nerve cells known as? Neurons. And in the 9th standard already you have studied. What is the definition of the word neuron? Definition of neuron. Structural unit of the nervous system. Nervous system. Structural and functional unit of the nervous system. So now, when we have silly doubt. Maybe silly.
What is the definition of coordination?
What is the definition of coordination? Definition, if you have to write proper definition, you should always write the working together of tissues of our body. The working together of tissues of our body by receiving signals. By receiving signals, how different organs work together. Working together of tissues of our body by receiving signals. So neurons now, what is the definition? Structural and functional unit of the nervous system. Then, when we are now trying to understand the concept of the neurons, this is not a new word for you. Neurons, already in the 9th standard you had studied about the parts and the functions. So let us again look at the diagram, try to understand what are the parts of the neurons, functions kya hai. This particular neuron, the major parts of the neuron would be the entire head-like structure, the cell body, also known as the cytosol. But the cytosol would have scanty cytoplasm, a big nucleus, but the nucleus is non-functional. The nucleus does not allow the process of division possible. Nerve cells cannot divide. And from the cytosol, a large number of cytoplasmic processes arise. A large number of cytoplasmic processes arise. And what are these cytoplasmic processes known as? Dendrites. First dendron, then dendrites. So this first extensions are actually known as the dendron. And then from the dendron, all these branches are known as the dendrites. Then one such cytoplasmic extension is extensively long, which branches up at the end. Okay. So this extensively long branch, that is what is known as the axon. Now this axon and the dendrites, there are specific functions for this neuron to understand. That this dendrites would generally be involved in what? Receiving the information, receiving the signals. What is the meaning of the word signal now that I talk about? नहीं, electric impulses तो यहाँ पे है. I say that when we are talking about the dendrites, what are these dendrites receiving? Where do we have this type of cells? All over the body. Just now I said that this is a component of the nervous system, so definitely they are present all over the body. But now receiving signals how? Receiving signals meaning receiving any type of an information, external information. So now, if I'm saying that these dendrites or these neurons, if they are present on the surface of the eye, what are they receiving? They are receiving light. If they are receiving on the surface of the skin, what are they receiving? Touch, pressure, prick, all these. If they are present on the surface of the ear, what are they receiving? Sound waves. Present on the tongue, what are they receiving? Different type of chemicals. Present in the nose, again different type of smell. So now, when we are talking about that, this type of neurons, definitely they are present in millions inside the body, in the deeper regions of our body. But if you have to think that if they are present, or the ones which are present on the surface of the eye and the ear and the skin, etc., what are they receiving? They are receiving signals. And what is the better word for the signal? Stimulus. What are they receiving? Stimulus. Now, stimulus, what are some examples of stimulus? Sound. I already gave you some sound, and then light, and then touch, and then temperature, the hotness, and the coldness, and the chemical, all these. These are the stimulus. So, do we respond to light differently? Yes. Whenever there's a flash of light, you respond. Whenever there's a flickering light, you respond. Do we respond to sound?
Yes.
A loud sound, you respond. Somebody calling you, you respond. Why you? Now that you all are looking at me, why? Because I'm talking. Sound is acting as a stimulus now. Sound is acting as a stimulus. Skin, what type of stimulus? Temperature, hotness, coldness, touch, prick, pressure, pain, pinch, all these. No? So all these will be considered as stimulus. So which part of the neuron receives the stimulus? The dendrites. So try understanding the function of the dendrites. Dendrites receive stimulus. Now that the dendrites receive the stimulus, the information will reach here, where? The cell body. Now that the information reaches the cell body just processes or modifies the information, meaning the stimulus, let that be in the form of sound, or let that be in the form of some information relating to some hotness or coldness of anything. So the cell body, also known as the cytone, what does it do? It processes, modifies the message, and then later what? Starts releasing certain enzymes, chemical substances. This chemical substances passes all throughout the length of the axon. Now that this chemical substances passes all throughout the length of the axon, those chemical substances changes the permeability of the axon membrane. What is the meaning of the word permeability? Allowing the transport across the membrane possible. So now these dendrites have received the sound waves. Is the axon also conducting sound waves? No, the axon is conducting the message but in a different language. Just like the computer, I had typed some words, but the computer converts it in its own language, and then the output again in the way we understand. So exactly the same way, the dendrites are receiving the messages, maybe now in the form of sound waves. But now that the sound waves enter here some processing happens, release of enzymes happen, which run down all throughout the length of the axon, bringing about some permeability change on the axon membrane, so that a large number of molecules can start moving. And ये जो molecules का move होना, that is what happens from here till here. And this is the language in which, or based on how the molecules are moving, what efficiency the molecules are moving, the message is getting transported from here till here. This message, which is getting transported all throughout the length of the axon, this is now known as the impulse. This is known as stimulus. This is known as impulse. So because the information received and the information transported are in two different forms. But ultimately, when somebody is calling you, the message immediately, within a fraction of a second, we say 1/10 of a second, it reaches here. And not only here, meaning it has to reach a sequence of neurons. Say suppose, now somebody calls you, somebody pricks you, the response is immediate. But then, it is actually a sequence of events. Somebody calling you, the message is received by your dendrites. That message going all throughout the axon from this region to the next neuron, next neuron, next neuron, another 100 neurons go to the brain, from the brain again come back till the neck muscles, and then you twist your neck muscles, look at that person and smile. So when I say it sounds, it's a big process. But when somebody calling us just now, less than a second we turn to that person, we show some response. Now we have many more examples. So here, what are we talking about? We are saying that there's a stimulus received by the dendrites, modification happening, enzyme release, axon membrane becoming permeable to move the molecules and ions, and the message getting transferred till here. But there's a difference from here to here and then here to here. The message gets transmitted in two different phases. So let us first of all try to understand that now that the neurons we are talking about, what are the functions of each of these parts? The first that I talk about is the dendrites. The first that I talk about, the major part of the neuron. What are the major parts of the neuron? The first is the dendrites. So always to remember, the dendrites are always known as short branched processes. The dendrites are always known as the short branched processes. What is the meaning of short branched processes? What is the meaning of short branched processes? See here, they keep on branching like the root system, keep on branching. Dendrites. What is the function of the dendrite that always you should write? They receive stimulus. They receive stimulus. That is the function of the neuron. They receive the stimulus. Dendrites receive stimulus always. Next is we talk about after the dendrites, we go to the cyton. What are some important concepts about the cyton also to know? The cyton is also known as the cell body. The cyton is also known as the cell body. And when we are talking about that, what is the job of the cyton? The cyton will just receive the message, these enzymes I already said, and to modify the message, and then it will start preparing the axon. So what is the function of the cyton? Function of the cyton is prepares the axon for the conduction of the message. Prepares the axon for the conduction of the information or the message. So that is always the function of the cyton. We go ahead with the next region. The next region, that is the axon. The third region, that is the axon. So what is the third important part? We talk about the axon here. Axon is a single long unbranched process. It is a single long unbranched process. Yes, if you see here, just now I showed you that in this figure, this axon is not branching on its way. No, it is just a long, thin, thread-like structure. It's a single long unbranched process. What is its function? Its function is conduction of the impulse. The word impulse, always you should try recollecting the concept of the word impulse as if from here, now that the message starts, this entire region is disturbed because it is constantly receiving the information. But from here, when the message starts moving, it is something like a pebble thrown on a still pond. And how the ripples will keep moving? Exactly that way. Understood? I talk about a still water body, a still pond, and then when we throw one pebble, what will happen? From one particular region, one particular center, there will be concentric lines, ripples that we call it as. So exactly like that, from here, the message starts transmitting. Here we talk about one important part known as, can you see this coverings, or these are actually myelin sheaths. These are actually what fatty deposits are. These are not cellular layers, true cellular membranous layers actually. These are the fatty deposits, and these fatty deposits are produced by certain cells here itself. What What are those cells known as? Those cells are actually, we'll draw the diagram later. The cells are known as the Schwann cells. Okay, and those Schwann cells actually, if you see here, the Schwann cells. So these cells itself start secreting those fatty deposits, result in the formation of a covering also at the length of the egg yolk. Then, what must be the function of this entire myelin sheath? Can you tell me? In the 9th we had studied also. What was the function of this myelin sheath? Prevents the loss of the messages. Acts as an insulator. This entire myelin sheath acts as an insulator. What is the meaning of insulator? We have got those insulated bottles. It will keep the hot for a number of hours, cold for a number of hours. We talk about this insulated wires and all. Why are these wires, the rubber tube and the plastic, why given here? So that we switch, put on and it blinks or it is lit. No? We put on the switch before we can completely put on its on. But if this plastic casing and the rubber tubings are not there, then from this switchboard till these tubes, if the plastic and the rubber tubings are not there, then we put this all throughout the path. There will be sparks, meaning loss of charges. And will the intensity and the sharpness of the light be this much? No, it will be dim. It will be dim, no? So same like that, in case in our neurons also surrounding the axon, there are these type of myelin sheath. What is the job of this myelin sheath? The job of this myelin sheath is does not allow the loss of the messages on its way. It is just acting as a cover, insulated layer, not allowing the messages get lost on the way, so that somebody calling, immediately you respond. You get a prick, immediately you look back, what's happening. Understood? You step on something sharp, immediately you withdraw your feet. But if this myelin sheath is broken, disturbed, absent, then what will happen? On its way, the messages will get lost. You feel some sharp prick on your feet. By the time you withdraw your feet, maybe some injury has already happened. So the time taking, you are taking a long time by the time you withdraw your feet. You touch something hot. By the time you withdraw your hand, maybe a couple of minutes gone. And maybe by the time you have hurt your fingers, small minor burn has happened. So then, what are we supposed to understand? What is this myelin sheath doing? Myelin sheath always acts as a insulator. The myelin sheath acts as an insulator and prevents the loss of messages. So this is something very important to remember since we are talking about the concept of the neurons. With reference to the neurons, the fourth part that we talk about is the myelin sheath. And this myelin sheath, it is actually the myelin sheath that we generally understand, this acts as a insulator. What is the meaning of the word insulator? It prevents the loss of messages, the loss of impulses, and hence the response can be quick and efficient. The response can be quick and efficient, that's why. Okay. Now, looking into the basic structure of the neuron. So we now have more or less tried understanding what are the functions of the parts of the neuron. Dendrites and axon differences structurally, functionally is a functional difference is a major question in your paper. Very commoner question. There's no chance also if you want to make an error, there should not be any error. It is so simple to understand and write. Don't make any error in this part of the question. Diagram will be there. Diagram we will draw. But before that, let us try understanding a method. Now, this particular neuron that we are talking about, a particular neuron now I understand. This particular neuron, is carrying the message. So this neuron that I understand, this neuron is carrying the message. This neuron is divided. It has got a large number of ends. It has got a large number of ends. Now, this particular neuron, what are the major parts to understand? The dendrites, the axon, the myelin sheath. So when you draw the diagram also, these are some parts that you have to remember to draw nicely. The cytone. The cytone, later we are going to also understand that the cytone has got certain type of granular substances which give a color to the neuron and the Nissl granules. And the entire neuron actually has got a silvery color, that's why. A grey silvery color, that's why. And then when we are talking about the myelin sheath, so how would the myelin sheath be? The myelin sheath is always a covering something like this all throughout the length of the neuron. And this is, just now as I mentioned, this is actually a fatty deposit all surrounding the length of the neuron. When you draw this diagram, you can just see put a light shade here to understand the difference between the myelin sheath and the axon. You will not be using any colors, but you can, with light dark shading, you can make this diagram. Now the diagram drawing you can complete at home also. This is not a difficult diagram for you to draw, you already drawn in the 9th standard. We try to understand that if this is the neuron, what is the process? The process is conduction of the impulse we are going to study now. Now the conduction of the impulse, to talk about the conduction of the impulse, I first now said, there has to be a stimulus. What is the meaning of the word stimulus? Stimulus means any particular agent, stimulus is any particular factor or an agent that can trigger our neurons to show a response. What can be some agents? Any particular external agent, sound, light, heat, etc. Organisms, any particular agent which can trigger a response. So now the moment the stimulus is there, I just now mentioned that there will be a large number of release of enzymes in the cytone, and the cytone starts releasing the enzymes or the chemical substances all throughout the length of the axon. Now from here till the entire region, from here, if I understand, from here till the entire region, the impulse transmission is generally supposed to be electrochemical. It is known to be electrochemical in nature. The impulse transmission is electrochemical in nature. So we are going to understand what is the meaning of electrochemical impulse transmission. So I said from here, from the start of the axon till the axon terminals, the impulse transmission is electrochemical in nature. But before that, let us try understanding also that at the end of the axon, what is supposed to be there? What is this particular region known as? This can be termed as the axon terminals or the terminal branches. So if I understand that these are the axon terminals, then what is there after the axon terminals? After the axon terminals, there is another neuron. There is another neuron. And either there is another neuron or also possible that there will be some other muscle. So this is one possibility, that there is one more neuron here and then the myelin sheath and all these parts. So definitely there is this type of a neuron that we are talking about. This is one. Then what are we going to name this junctions? So let us talk about the junctions that we name. So first is I talk about that this is one neuron and this is the second. What is this particular junction known as, where the neuron both the neurons they meet, or the junction of the axons of one neuron and the dendrites of the other. What is this junction known as? This is what is known as the synapse. How do we define this word synapse? The point of contact of the axon terminal of one neuron and the dendrites of the other. But is it always necessary that the axon terminal should touch the dendrites or come in contact with the dendrites of another neuron? No, not necessary every time, because sometimes it is also possible that these axon terminals they come in contact with some muscles of the body. It is also possible, no? So think of some neurons which are running from the brain and terminating on the muscles of the hand, running from the spinal cord, terminating on the muscular regions of our body. Or again, I may understand that there are hundreds of neurons which are running from the ear to the brain and brain to the spinal cord and spinal cord to the leg. So if you think that way, the neurons have got two sites where they would end up. The axon terminals have got two sites where they would end up, either the dendrites of the next neuron or the muscle. So if they are terminating in a muscle, then what is this junction known as? Then what will this junction? This is also known as a synapse, but only that the synapse names are different. Then what are these type of? I would just name them as 1 and 2. So if I name this, okay, let me just name them here itself. So if I name these type of synapse, what are these type of synapse known as? Neuromuscular junctions. Junction means always a region where two parts meet. Neuromuscular junctions. So what are these type of synapses known as? These are known as the neuromuscular junctions. Then when two neurons meet, what are we supposed to name them as? These are known as interneuronal junctions. So you have got one particular figure in your book. This particular figure is there in your book and you often get questions on that diagram. So first of all, we are understanding that the neurons in our body has got a specific structure, brain, function, etc., etc. Then the axon terminals of the neuron, where will they wind up? Axon terminals of the neuron, either they will come close and wind up, terminate near the dendrites of another neuron or near the muscles, glands, etc. So if they are terminating at the neuromuscular junction, then what is the response? The response would be contraction of the muscle and movement of the body parts. The response would be contraction of the muscle and movement of body parts. Okay, so this is one, movement of the body parts. What would be when I talk about the other side? What would be if it is this type of a junction, interneuronal junction if it is, then what would the function be? If it is this type of a junction, then the function would be again transmission of the impulse further. Transmission of impulse further. So now here we are talking about two things. Axon terminals coming in close contact with the dendrites of the next. Then what are they doing? Just passing on the signal from here to here. And then the next same follows. If the axon terminal terminates on the body of a muscle, gland, etc., then what? The muscle will contract, the body will move. Or if it is a gland, then secretion. Just think, if the neuron terminates on the body of the liver, on the surface of the liver, then what will be the job? The liver cells will be stimulated to release the bile juice. It is something like that. And if the neurons terminate on the leg muscles, arm muscles, face muscles, then what are these muscles doing? Contracting, and we are able to move the body parts. And if the axon terminals terminate on the dendrites, which is constantly happening, we are not able to understand that the impulse move from one neuron to the other. Now we try to understand what is this process? How does this process happen? How does the electrochemical nerve impulse transmission happen? So that's a process that we have to understand. Let us try to come across that. The process of nerve impulse transmission, just try to understand certain few words and a concept to come across here. And we are trying to understand that how would the message get transmitted from one part of the axon to the other. How would the message get transmitted from one part of the axon to the other? So I start the story this way, that the dendrites have received the stimulus, the cyton has done its job. Now the message has to be transmitted from here to here. So it is the axon basically we are talking about, where the message is getting transmitted. So now I try talking about this entire axon. This is the entire axon. Just try to understand, don't draw anything. Try to understand first. This is an axon that I draw. This axon has not started. This axon has not started conducting the message. The inside of the axon has got quite similar substance like the cytoplasm. But the inside of the axon has got more of negatively charged molecules. So that's the reason the inside of the axon is always marked negative. The inside of the axon is always marked negative, and the outside of the axon is always marked positive, because the outside of the axon has got high concentration of sodium ions.
And potassium.
Only sodium outside. Inside there are large number of negatively charged molecules like the chlorides, like the proteins, and like the potassium ions, but though this is positively charged, the overall charge here is negative. Clear? So now at this stage, this is how when an axon is not conducting any message. Is it possible axon not conducting any message? Possible, but we feel that the neurons are constantly conducting messages. Yes, when we are talking about the message transmission, we understand between any two message transmission, the axon, they always take a millisecond period of a rest. What is the meaning of millisecond? Much lesser than a second. Now that the dendrites have taken some information and that has been passed through the length of the axon. So from here to here, the job is over. After that, the entire neuron will take a millisecond period of rest to stabilize everything and again start. But that is such a short period of time, we are not able to understand that the neurons are ever resting also. But the neurons do rest to stabilize all the chemical components. So when this axon is not conducting message or is about to start conducting the message, what is this axon known as? This axon is known to be in the resting stage or state of the neuron. This is also known as the polarized state of the neuron. So in the resting state, what is the condition of the axon? Outside is all positively charged, the axon membrane is all positively charged, and the inside of the axon is all negatively charged. But now I understand that now that the resting state is over and the axon has started conducting the message. So let us try understanding that if the axon has started conducting the message, then how should the change be? Where should the change be? So already we said that the outside is positively charged, the inside is negatively charged. And now I try to understand that yes, some message has already started passing down the axon now. The message has started passing down from here. So now Immediately what will happen is at one particular region, not the entire axon, at one particular region, the movement of the ions will start taking place. If you remember, I told you the cytone releases certain chemicals which runs down the axon, preparing the axon, changing its permeability, something. So now that the impulse has started moving or the stimulus has hit the neuron, started coming down from here. Now what will happen in one particular region, this positively charged ions are moving in and the negatively charged ions are going out. Potassium, chloride, proteins going out and the sodium ions are going in. So this is one major state that is happening. So at this state of the neuron, the axon, how is it? Small part of the axon has suffered from an ionic disturbance. The rest of the axon is still undisturbed. The rest of the axon is still undisturbed. Then, is this the method step by step going and the entire message getting transmitted this way? Yes. Yes. Then, how will this next region get disturbed? This disturbance will cause a disturbance in the next. Just like the wave of the water. No? So, this particular region is disturbed. So, definitely this will also suffer from a disturbance now. When one region of the axon has already suffered from a disturbance, the rest is yet to suffer from a disturbance. What is this region or what is this condition of the axon known as? What is this state or phase of nerve impulse transmission? Excited state. This is known as the excited state or the stage of the neuron. What is the meaning of excited state? The message has started getting transmitted. A part of the axon has showed its disturbance and it is now getting carried over. What now next? In the next stage, what will happen is, I just now said that the next region will now show the disturbance. So what should I show? I would show that yes, this is the region which is now suffering from the disturbance. If it is suffering from disturbance, then the positively charged should go in and the negative should go out. Yes, so this is what is happening. The positive going in and the negative going out. The negative going in and the positive going out. This is what has happened in the second region. The rest of the neuron, the rest of the axon, yet to be disturbed, yet to carry the message forward. But it is still in the resting state. So if it is in the resting state, this is what the condition is. But what about the previous state now? What about the previous region of the axon? The message has transmitted here. Now the message is supposed to transmit here now. Just like step by step wave-like movement happening. What about the previous state now? The previous region of the axon, it will revert back to the stable state again by the movement of the ions back. That's a different process mechanism that you don't need right now. So what will happen? The negative which was out again comes back. The positive which was in again goes out. So the positive goes out, negative comes in, the positive goes out, negative comes in. So at this state, part of our axon has already passed the message forward. Part of our axon is showing the ionic change. Another big part of the axon yet to carry the message further. Since this region has returned back to its stable state, this region is, or this phase is known as the stable state of the axon or the stabilized state. So what is this known as? This is known as the stable state or the stable stage of the axon. The alternate stages are, these are known as the polarized state. This is known as the depolarized state. These are alternate words for you. If you want to take it, you will take, otherwise no need. And this is known as the repolarized state. Basic to understand what is the meaning of the resting state, excited state, and stable state again. So now from step by step, the message is getting transmitted. So in this way, the message will get transmitted further and reach this particular region, the ends of the axon. So in this manner, exactly in this manner, what manner are we studying right now? We are studying, this is known as the electrical method of nerve impulse transmission. This entire method is almost similar to the movement of the charges in the electrical wires. The method is also almost like this, part by part, region by region. So this entire method of impulse transmission that happens from way to way, start of the axon till the end of the axon, and now proceeding towards the axon branches. So till here is electrical nerve impulse transmission. By the time the impulse has reached here, there's a huge lot of change in this particular region of the axon terminal. By the time the impulse has reached here, what now next? In each of these regions, some new chemical substances starts getting formed. So now, if I draw this particular region little bit magnified, maybe something like this. I draw one particular axon terminal. I'm just drawing this big little bit. The message has transmitted till here. Some new chemicals are getting formed. And these new chemicals will now get formed and they will be packed up in small packets like this. The new chemicals will be formed and they will be packed up in small packets like this. And what are these chemical substances known as? These chemical substances are known as neurotransmitters. These chemical substances are known as neurotransmitters. This is the name of the group, the entire group of the chemical substances. There are so many of these examples. One example that you will have to study, acetylcholine. So by the time the impulse has reached till the axon terminals, now proceeding towards the branches, in every such axon knobs, what do we call these? This we will term as axon knobs. Bead-like structures, bulb-like structures. So the axon knobs that we understand. So in the axon knobs, if you see something like this is happening. So here in the axon knobs, this figures just to understand. Now, if you see here, this is what I am drawing here. Okay, what is this? This is the axon bulb or the knobs. Chemical substances started getting released. What chemical substances? Neurotransmitters. One example. This is must for you to remember. Type of the chemical substances. One example. Now, this chemical substances that I understand, this small bubble-like structures in cell organelles and all you have studied. What are the small bubble-like structures known as? The Golgi carries chemical substances, endoplasmic reticulum carries. ये पैकेट-like structures, bubble-like structures को क्या कहते हैं? नहीं. Not vacuole, something similar. Vesicles. Vesicles. So एक bubble-like structure बनता है, and then they will come and fuse, and the chemical substances are all released out. But released out way, if I understand this, yes, there is another dendrite here. No? There is another dendrite here. What am I drawing this as? This is the dendrite of the next neuron. And these chemicals are all diffused here. So what is the name of this phase? Axon terminal and the dendrite of the next. What is this phase known as? Synapse. So where is the chemical diffusing? Through the synapse to reach the next neuron. See here? So from here they will diffuse to reach the next neuron. So this method that we had studied, from here to here I said this is electrical, and from here to here this is chemical by the way of the acetylcholine neurotransmitter. So here to here is chemical. So I would say from here to straight here, the complete transmission of nerve impulse is electrochemical. You get questions? Why nerve impulse transmission is electrochemical in nature? Write down that question. We will continue from the next class. Why is nerve impulse transmission considered to be electrochemical in nature and the process? Homework diagram complete करके आना है. Why is nerve impulse? We'll start from this next class. Why is nerve impulse transmission? Why is nerve impulse transmission considered to be electrochemical in nature? All of you will complete the diagram of the neuron. Only pencil drawing. Next class you will show me. Okay.